What is going on, Sports Minds? It's your boy MJ coming at you with another episode of the Fantasy Fumble. Snoop Dogg has had too much to smoke. He just jumped off. Man, Snoop, you gotta
Get
chill
back
out,
up
blow.
there.
It's that
Get
bling
back up
bling.
there.
I'm sorry. Sorry, folks. Snoop isn't on his best behavior right now. We're gonna just let it's that bling bling. He's just gonna go to sleep. All
There
right.
you
So
go.
listen. We are coming at you with another episode of the Fantasy Fumble. I'm here with my co-host and good friend Joe. Joe, how the hell are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing pretty well. I think I had a decent week in fantasy. I went 3-3, but the games I needed to win, I won. Aside from your league, the Champions League, aside from your one league, and I have a tough matchup this week. So I think my days are numbered in the Champions League. But everything else, every other league, it's going really well. And that's how I felt 2 weeks ago. Like Snoop, I just wanted to fall off the couch watching all my teams lose. But this week's been better. How about you?
It was a good week, man. A lot of wins across the board. I think I had 4 out of 5 in leagues. One of them was a complete blowout. So but that tends to be the team that's so different from the rest of them. You always do that contrarian lineup, right? You're going to draft players that you weren't really big on this whole offseason. You're going to go a different route. And that almost 99% of the time ends up being your worst team. And that's my team in James's league, right? So that ends up being I'm 1-5 in that league. I have players that I typically wouldn't have drafted, and my team is buns. So, but things happen, and the other ones I'm looking like a juggernaut. So you can't win them all, folks. That's fantasy football.
And you should change it up. You don't want to have the same team in every league. I try to, if I'm like, for example, I drafted James Cook and Isaiah Pacheco in like 3 leagues. And after I did that for my first few drafts, I thought, all right, you can't do that again. Change it up. Even if he's available, change it up, because if something happens, like Pacheco getting injured, then you've got problems in every league. So it's good to change it up like that and draft some guys you normally wouldn't. Like I drafted DeAndre Swift and was not feeling that. It turned out to be okay the last few weeks, but the first few weeks were rough. And you gotta play the long term. You gotta change things up. And the one league where I actually had a really close win, Josh Allen won the game on the very last play. And that league, I'm doing all right. I'm 3-3, but that team is so much different than all my other teams, because I was taking that approach where I'm like, all right, I'm going to draft a quarterback early. I'm going to go wide receiver heavy, where I usually go running back heavy. And it worked out. But yeah, it usually doesn't when you try to make different moves like that.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about all these injuries. Oh my goodness. It has been an absolute Armageddon of injuries, right? I think that's your reference you made, right?
Yeah, something like that. Injury Armageddon.
Yeah.
But the thing is, dude, also the studs are not playing like studs in the running back position. All the guys that you're taking in the first round, aside from, people like Barkley and Henry, who look incredible, but they were towards the end towards the back of the first round. I mean, we've got a lot of running backs that are just not performing at the level you expected. So that's been hard to navigate.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Those injuries, especially to running backs, those wide receiver pedigrees, right? The top ranked wide receivers have been your most consistent contributors, right? But I took the approach of I like running a triangle style of I like to call it a triangle style of team roster. So basically, what that means is that I have a 3-headed monster at running back, 3-headed monster at wide receiver, and that's how I try to build my team up. And obviously, I can't get both. If I could get one, if 3-headed running back's not available, then I'll get a 3-headed wide receiver core. And that typically gives you a really good, really good trajectory in fantasy football.
And then you can build that other part that you're lacking throughout the season. I mean, you've always got guys off the waiver wire. You can always make trades. especially after injuries. You can get some people that'll make trades with you, doing 2-for-1s, and you can end up building your team that way. But yeah, it's been a really interesting season. And I think we should get into some more interesting things that happened this week. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Hey there, my name is Manny James Gonzalez with PRB, and I'm a real estate agent here in Central Florida. I'm a U.S. Navy veteran, military relocation pro, and big supporter of 2A and veterans' rights. My specialty is VA transactions. I'm also experienced in all parts of real estate.
I've been living in Florida for over 20 years, and I can tell you we still believe in freedom down here. One of the greatest job markets, excellent economy, and no state income tax. When it comes to an agent, you want one that's going to be honest, not afraid of a fight, and most importantly, willing to do the things that some agents aren't willing to do.
And what's that, Manny?
Shoot straight, Dan. If you're ever considering buying in Central Florida, you need somebody you can trust, and I got your six. I'm Manny James Gonzalez, find land for the free and home for the brave.
Welcome back, ballers. As I was just saying, there's a couple interesting things that happened this week. So let's get into our news and notes. Now, a couple things right off the bat that we got to talk about. There's two trades that happened. Davante Adams is now on the Jets, and Amari Cooper is now on the Bills. What do you think about all that, Manny?
Well, I do like the fits for both teams. I was talking weeks ago. I don't know if I did it on the show or just with you, Joe, talking about how the Packers would be a great – Packers. Aaron Rodgers would be a great teammate for Davante Adams. He's disgruntled. They moved their car. And he hates it in that, in Oakland or Las Vegas.
Derek Carr was like the only reason he's there.
Yeah, and then they shipped him out. So what reason did he have to stay in Las Vegas? So on the other hand, Jets were a struggling franchise offensively. They needed more firepower. Alan Lazard was solid this year, has been solid, but he's had a lot of drops too. So they want some sure hands, and they got that with Davante. So he's going to be a really nice wide receiver 3 on your team. You can't buy on him now because people are going to be selling high. You got to wait till he has a couple okay games, which, after a first game or two, you might be able to buy low on him.
You might be able to get some people to do it after this first week because I don't think they're going to give him a full workload. So you might be able to get some people to bite, but I doubt it. Probably got to give it 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like after a couple games, because they all know it's just precautionary. But the good thing is he's already been out in the practice field, so I mean they're going to give him a lot of snaps. So we'll see.
But yeah, I think the same thing about Davante is you could have a couple weeks where he's still getting accustomed to the offense and he's not getting a full workload. And if he did actually have a hamstring injury, they're going to definitely want to ease him into the offense. And if you catch some people that are frustrated after a week or two of, not great numbers. And I mean, it's possible Davante comes out and just blows the roof off the stadium and acts like he was when him and Rodgers were playing together years ago. But I think it's going to take a couple weeks. And if you get some people that are frustrated, he might be a season winner, but you're not going to, or a league winner, but you're not going to get him right now. I agree with you. His value is way too high right now. And the same thing with Amari is I do think it'll take him a couple weeks to get accustomed to the Bills offense, but with him, that's a much better offense. Same thing as Davante, a much better offense. Their numbers are only going up from here, and they've already been respectable. So I like that move for both of them. And it could even help Garrett Wilson with Davante there. Now he's not going to have to worry about being double covered. And with Amari Cooper, now you've got someone that Josh Allen can actually throw to on a regular basis. Now, in other news, some Steelers-related news, the 4-2 Steelers are now having Russell Wilson as their starting quarterback. I'm not into that. I don't understand it. I know that Justin Fields has made a few mistakes, but the team is 4-2 and he's looked pretty good. And they're playing the Jets this week, who are tough against the pass. You'd think you'd want a mobile quarterback, but whatever. It's typical behavior for the Steelers to just do things that don't really make sense. But we'll see. But yeah, Russell Wilson is now going to be the starter for Pittsburgh. Now we have a Q. Hold on.
A cute.
Now we have a few notable injuries that we got to discuss at running back. TJ Spears, Trey Sermon, and Jonathan Taylor from the Colts. Aaron Jones, Ramondre Stevenson, Najee Harris, and Jerome Ford. They all did not practice. And at wide receiver, we got Jacoby Myers, Michael Pittman Jr., and Josh Downs from the Colts. Deontay Johnson and Rashid Shaheed is now on IR, headed towards IR, it seems like. And Chris Olave has already been ruled out for Game 7 with a concussion. Now at tight end, Dallas Goedert did not practice, and that's it. And for quarterback, as we were just discussing, Derek Carr, he is listed as doubtful for Week 7, probably not going to play. A few notable people that, although we don't normally mention limited practice, there are a few notable names that came back to practice. Nick Chubb and Clyde Edwards-Helaire at running back, and TJ Hawkinson at tight end. So it's good to see them practicing again. I wouldn't expect anything this week, but possibly next week.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of injuries, man. The injury bug keeps biting. But obviously with the injury bug comes the replacements, right? The guys that you're going to spot start that are going to pretty much save your week. And I've seen situations where these guys fill a role and they still get you a serviceable flex option or flex points, 15 points a game. So in regards to Chris Olave, obviously that, wide receivers there, you're looking at Rashid Shaheed, of course, he's the number one option that they're going to go to there. But outside of that, there's not really going to be any major targets going around, I think. As far as wide receivers, did you have somebody that you like?
Well, I was just going to say Rashid Shaheed is also out for Week 7.
Oh,
so,
he is. So
yeah, they already ruled him out, and Olave. So your options are limited in New Orleans. It might be a good week to play Taysom Hill. If he's questionable too, though. So I don't know.
It sounds like you need to stay away.
For Kamara. Yeah, expect a big week for Kamara and stay away from everything else.
Yeah, definitely. And as a Philadelphia Eagles fan, I can tell you one thing, that you do not want to get a replacement for Dallas Goedert. Doesn't matter who they put in there, you're not going to get any production. It's still going to go to A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and we're either going to win or we're going to crash hard to the earth like a flaming asteroid. That's how bad the game can be for the Eagles. So I wouldn't start anybody in place of Goddard. And then, of course, for Derek Carr, Spencer Rattler did look good.
He did look good, yeah.
So he'd probably be more of a Russian option, like they'd run more of that role there. You'd probably get some touchdowns to a bunch of people we don't even know. But I wouldn't start anybody besides Kamara, like you said. So there's not really a lot of availability right now on the waiver wire. You had to have already made those moves. But if you haven't already, Clyde Edwards-Helaire should have already been picked up, but he's activated from IR as well. So,
yeah, he's available in a lot of leagues, so you might be able to
pick him up. A little stash.
Yeah. And it's strange though, like we were talking about, Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave are both out. So what are your options in New Orleans? And then for the Colts, it's possible that Trey Sermon and Jonathan Taylor are out. They're two starting running backs. And then Michael Pittman and Josh Downs. It's possible that they're going to be out. If all four of those guys are out, the Colts are going to have a long day.
Damn. I didn't even think about that. So stay the hell away from the Colts too. Woo! It's kind of hot in here. It's time for our hot matchups over here. Now, for my hot matchup, Joe, I ended up going with the Texans versus the Packers. That actually has a really good potential to be a shootout. Obviously, two really good defensive teams. The Texans just came from a really dominant performance last week here when they got the win. And the Packers also have been playing strong defense all year long. But I think when you have two really great defenses like that and two awesome offenses meet, it's going to be basically a shot for shot type of game. You know, like one team's going to score, the other team's going to answer. One team's going to score because, I mean, at the end of the day, offense wins the games here in the NFL today, right? That's the rules are favorable to the offense, right? Like protecting the quarterback, the receivers. So if you have the right offense, like, you know, like Tank Dell clicking in all cylinders, right? With Stephon Diggs for CJ Stroud. We all saw Joe Mixon coming back from injury. He looked freaking amazing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Dameon Pierce looks like has some kind of potential as a backup.
Yeah.
You know,
Where'd that come from?
right? I mean, he flashed his rookie season. He
Yeah,
actually looked pretty
that's
solid.
true. That's true.
And
The
then-
first few weeks he did.
And then he regressed. I don't know what happened, but on the other side, the Packers, I mean, they thought their season was over after week 1. They thought Jordan Love was injured. And I mean, fortunately, I'm very happy for them because that would have been crappy for fantasy footballers, you know, at everywhere, because at the end of the day, you're going to be without a whole valuable lineup of wide receivers, right? And potentially running backs. But the Packers, Jordan Love throwing it to Jaden Reed, you know, Romeo Doubs had an efficient day. Christian Watson ate, you know, Tucker Kraft ate. Like they were just feeding it to everybody.
Yeah. Tucker Kraft had a little bit of a down day, but everybody else ate. He ate the previous week like a big fat pig. But yeah, dude, it was great to see Jordan Love come back, and it's just like he never skipped a beat. And I traded Jalen Hurts because I have Jordan Love on my team. I figured I don't need them both. So I'm that confident in Jordan Love, and I expect that to be a high-scoring game too. Now for my hot matchup, I'm going with the Ravens again. The Ravens versus the Buccaneers. They're both 4-2. And they've looked really impressive through the first 6 weeks of the season. Everyone's healthy on both sides of the field, aside from Rashad White, but Bucky Irving and Sean Tucker look better anyway. And the Ravens secondary might give Baker some problems, but not enough for him to stop throwing to Godwin and Evans. And the Bucs will not be able to stop the offense of the Ravens, whether it's on the ground or through the air. Their run defense is a little better than their pass, but they won't be able to stop King Henry and Lamar. They just won't. And Lamar has looked great as a passer lately too. So I expect that to be a high-scoring game on the ground and through the air for both teams.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun game. I'm actually very excited to see that. I don't have a lot of stock in either team. Unfortunately, this year it didn't fall to me. But definitely excited for the fireworks that will happen. A potential shootout for sure.
All right. Now it's time for our cold calls of the week. Now for my cold call, again, I'm going with the Steelers. The Jets versus the Steelers. I know we're all excited about Devontae and Rodgers getting back together, but these are two of the best defenses in the league. And there are still some things that need to be ironed out for both of their offenses. Devontae may be a little hobbled with his hamstring injury, or he may be fine, but either way, I don't think he's just going to hit the ground running on a new team against the Steelers secondary. Garrett Wilson, he might have a little bit of a hard time too, as though, you know, we were just talking about how these guys are going to be good long-term, but I'm saying this week, obviously you're going to start them, but you're going to have them with lower expectations. Breece Hall should still give you a solid floor, but again, you got to lower those expectations. The Jets secondary has looked incredible as well. And the Steelers, they're starting Russell Wilson. They've been struggling with the pass. They can't seem to find a rhythm with Pickens. And I think as I was saying before, I think a mobile quarterback like Fields would be a better move this week. But they are starting Russell Wilson. He's going to have to shake off the rust, and he's going to have to get accustomed to the offense. I don't think it's going to be a good week for the Steelers offense. Pickens is inconsistent at best, and Najee is banged up. He didn't practice today. So don't expect too much from Warren, even if he gets a bigger workload against the Jets defense. And he just came back from an injury too. So lower your expectations for Najee, Jaylen Warren, and Pickens. I guess you start them if you don't have other options, but hopefully you have better options. I do think it'll be a great game. And I would start the studs on the Jets, but with lower expectations. And I would stay away from the Steelers. But the Steelers and the Jets, both good starts this week.
Now, for my cold call, I went ahead and went Pats versus the Jaguars. I mean, two teams that are really struggling a little bit. I know Drake May had a good game last week. The Jags had a bad game last week. I think they lost in London, so they need to bounce back. They want to go ahead. They lost to the Bears. Yeah. So they need to bounce back. I think this is the perfect game for them, the Patriots. So it's going to be a really ugly game because the Patriots are really going to give it to them. And I could see this being a grind fest and just a really slow, ugly game. So I wouldn't play anybody from the Patriots, not even Ramondre Stevenson. And then on the opposite side for the Jags, I mean, you could play some wide receivers like Evan Ingram and Christian Kirk. I know he's a tight end, but might as well be a receiver.
Yeah.
And Travis Etienne's out, so Tank Bigsby is going to split it with Dearness Johnson. I wouldn't play either. I didn't like that backfield. I didn't even like it with Travis Etienne. That's why I traded him in the one league I had him.
Yeah, I know. It was a good move now, huh? Looking back at that. It was a risky move at the time.
Hey, I sold it. I was like, I don't like what's going on over there.
Yeah, you called that early. And I was surprised because, I thought he was going to be repeating what he did last year. But, man, it's been a rough start for the Jags. I think they really need a win this week too. And the offense has looked – you've seen flashes of what they can do. They have potential, but they're just not getting it together. Yeah, Evan Ingram came back and looked awesome. But, yeah, that offense, it's a little shaky, and that game as a whole is probably going to be low scoring.
Ugh. It's time for the shit call of the week. Now, for my shit call, I'll tell you what, I was stupid. I was stupid to think that Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos were going to give Javonte Williams, their best running back, a consistent workload. They have been hurting that guy's stock so bad. They keep giving it to little Jaleel McLaughlin. And everybody's McLaughing at their McAssin, all right? Because it's stupid, all right? So I'm just as dumb. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Yeah. I will not be making that a big balls call again. I don't care. That was risque, even for my taste, and they made me look dumb. They had a good matchup and they screwed it up.
They should have given him more volume, so don't be too hard on yourself. Some of these coaches, they don't make the best calls. I know I'm not a coach. I know I don't know dick compared to these coaches, but some of these calls really have you scratching your head. Again, like starting Russell Wilson when Justin Fields has you at 4-2 and he's going to need to run the ball. Anyway, my shit call, I thought the Lions versus the Cowboys was going to be a shootout, and it was almost a shutout. You like that little play on words there?
That was
The only
good.
points scored by the Cowboys were from their kicker, Brandon Aubrey. Everyone on the Lions came to play, but Dak and the Cowboys looked really bad. They were sleeping the entire game.
Hey, they dropped a 40 burger on the other side. So, I mean, I think the Lions almost hit the spread by themselves.
I know. I mean, yeah, that side of it was great. Everyone came to play, and they looked awesome. I mean, you could have gotten a little more targets for Laporta, but he still scored his touchdown, so
Yeah.
made up for it.
On a flea flicker, too.
Yeah, I know. A long touchdown on a flea flicker. That was great.
Disrespectful. The Lions are
I mean,
like,
they were playing with him like a lion, just batting him around like a fresh kill.
nah, bro, they're like a honey badger. They don't give a fuck, bro.
I know. And that's the thing is you're like, well, they're going to put in their backups now, and they never did. They just fucking kept pounding them into the ground.
And that ended up hurting them because guess what? They ended up snapping freaking Aiden Hutchinson's leg in half, right? So now they lose him for the season, which is horrible because that was their best player on their entire team, you know? Like,
And that says a lot when you're talking about that team.
yeah, their team is so talented. Like they were literally the best team in the NFC. And the only way they stay on that conversation is by making a move for Max Crosby. He fits their scheme, their lineup, what they need. And at the end of the day, he's from Detroit, isn't he? Or from Michigan?
I don't know.
I think he went to Michigan State. He went to Michigan State for school. So he thought he was going to get drafted by the Lions. He did not. So after they told him, so he has a chip on his shoulder. So it'd be nice to get him reunited back home.
And man, I mean, their defense has been so good that you want to keep that. You know, their defense they kind of fly under the radar because their offense is so good, but their defense is amazing too. And, you know, Hutchinson was a huge reason for that, obviously. So they need to fill that gap somehow. I'd love to see that Crosby going over.
Such a good game, man.
It
Unless the
was.
Cowboys get stomped.
It was.
Fuck
I
yeah.
mean, I enjoyed watching the game, but my big balls or my prediction was wrong. It wasn't a shootout. I did enjoy the game though.
It was a good game.
Now let's get into our big balls call. Drop him. Let him swing.
Get him off my head, man.
Get him. Let him swing. So for my big balls call, if he plays, so there's a caveat with this. If he plays, which I think he will, Malik Neighbors is going to come back and finish as the wide receiver 1 this week. The game against the Eagles should be an offensive battle. It's a divisional matchup, and Malik is going to be hungry. He's been awesome when he's healthy. They gave him an extra week to rest. He's going to come back, blow the roof off the place, and finish as the wide receiver 1.
I like it. Malik Neighbors missed 2 weeks. He was the number 1 fantasy scorer wide receiver, and he was actually the league leader in yards before he went out. So imagine him coming back and just having a huge day. That's
awesome.
amazing. I like that call a lot, Joe. Very good.
I know it'll be a little hard for you to watch because you're an Eagles fan, but you still will enjoy it.
Yeah, not really. Probably not. He's not on any of my teams, so I can't cheer for him. That's exactly the reason why I'm trying to trade CeeDee Lamb in one of my leagues. Oops. Because I don't want to cheer on Cowboys, especially when they're sucking. It makes it even harder to like them. I'm like, man, the one time I'm actually like positively sending vibes your way, you're going to really suck ass.
Mm-hmm.
Like, get it together, bro. Get it together.
I know I got him in one league too, and I had him in 2, but now I have him in 1, and it's been frustrating.
Yeah. And he hasn't sucked ass. I meant the Cowboys have sucked ass.
Yeah, I know, but it's been frustrating because he's had a couple weeks that are lackluster because of Dak and the entire offense. Not as frustrating as Brandon Ayuk, but still frustrating. Now, what's your big balls call?
Well, that's a perfect segue, sir. My big balls call is Brandon Ayuk's going to be a top 5 wide receiver this week. The 49ers play their revenge game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So this is going to be a good game. Now, just so I'm not saying the wrong information, it's in San Francisco. All right, in front of the home crowd. Is this a night game? It's a 4:25 game. It's perfect. It's the perfect weather. So Brandon Ayuk's been lackluster. You're going to see a lot of plays going his way, I think. And I could see Kansas City, even though they have a stud secondary, him having 150 yards and a touchdown here tomorrow. So he's going to go from 0 to hero, and he's going to be fantasy wide receiver in the top. He'll definitely be in the top 3 tomorrow.
He went from 0 to hero in week 5. And then he just, it's hard with it. That's kind of the same problem you have with the Lions. There are going to be certain weeks where those studs don't perform. And it's usually just because they have so many weapons that the ball is spread around a little too much. And that's the same thing with the 49ers. They've got a lot of options. But I hope you're right, because I was heavy on Brandon Ayuk coming into the season. During preseason, I thought, man, he's not being ranked high enough. And I was wrong, but he can definitely rebound.
It's that time of the night, the most hated time of the night, of course. It's the end of the Fantasy Fumble. We really appreciate you folks stopping by, showing us love and support. Don't think we're this obnoxious in real life, okay? We're way more obnoxious, okay?
Depends
We're just toning it down.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. That's not true. We appreciate the love and support. Joe, what else do we have coming out for these guys? I think you said you have some content you're working on for them.
Just putting a cool video together of 2 guys from LSU, Jamar Chase and Justin Jefferson, battling back and forth. Just the first 6 weeks, I know that Justin Jefferson was on a bye last week, but the first 5 games for him and the first 6 games for Jamar, them just putting up some big plays and some touchdowns, just going back and forth with some Mobb Deep playing in the background. So you can comment on that video. Who you think's going to finish with more touchdowns, Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson?
I think I know where everybody's leading, but they may be surprised. I don't know. I traded Jamar. I traded Jamar Chase to you for CD, and so far it's looking like you're winning that trade by far.
Yeah, but that could change in a matter of 2 weeks drastically.
Yep.
So you never know.
Yeah, don't worry.
But yeah, that's all I got to say is just continue to check out the player profiles and the other content we upload, and let us know if there's anything you want to see. Even if it's a highlight video of one of your favorite players, even from back in the day, that content will help us. So I'd be happy to do it.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. We'll see you next week. Same time, same place. You guys have a good one. All right. See you later.